I know. I've had a good handful of you guys recommend that I revisit the newest entry to the Alice in Wonderland analog horror series. And don't you worry, kids. Papa always comes back from the 7-Eleven with milk and cigarettes. About a month ago, I did an analysis on a very creepy video titled Alice in Dreams. And as of a couple of weeks ago, that video just got a sequel. If you guys haven't seen the original Alice in Dreams video or my analysis on it, I strongly suggest that you check out both before watching this video, just to bring you up to speed. Links will be down below in the description as always. Now, without further ado, let's see what's new. The first few seconds of this video circles back around to when our main protagonist, Alice, first receives a lobotomy. We can see a pic inching ever closer to her face, and before long, we are shown a medical document detailing the results of her lobotomy and her history of mental illness. According to this document, Alice's full name is Alice Liddell, or Liddell, Liddell, I don't know how you... I don't know how you, so we're gonna go with Liddell for now. And if you don't know, Alice Liddell is canonically the inspiration for the real Alice in the Alice in Wonderland story. Not that it's pertinent to this video at all, but it's nice. It's a nice little detail, a little Easter egg. According to this document, however, Alice is 18 and diagnosed with schizophrenia. We'll throw this suggestion out there, though, just to take that diagnosis with a grain of salt, given how liberally that diagnosis was thrown around back in the day in regards to outspoken women. Alice is also known to experience spouts of violence and disassociation, this of course resulting in her scheduled lobotomy. According to the document, the lobotomy went well. Did it. And she is now fit to live in society again. However, that's not all that this document has to say. You see that funny little message at the bottom? What does that say there, huh? A white rabbit came for her? Oh no. Good God. If anyone here has makeup allergies, you understand the pain that I'm in. Look at all the sacrifices your father has made for you, you ungrateful child. I am suffering. Anyway, the title of this video is Alice in Dreams, The Looking Glass. Ooh! Alice can be seen looking out her window on a snowy day, and boy oh boy does she absolutely eat this look. I mean, I think it's interesting how, apart from her lobotomy picture, God, what an absolutely horrible fucking thing to say. Ew. Anyways, but apart from that, she's always wearing fancy dresses and vibrant makeup, and it's unclear whether or not this is a symptom of her mental illness or the result of the lobotomy or a combination of both, but either way, I think this is a subtle nod to the fact that her perception of reality is not exactly accurate. And that is the nicest possible way I can put it. A kitten can be seen playing at her feet, and the way that she picks it up, I cannot explain to anybody watching this video why I found this part so funny. Please understand me. God, maybe I need a lobotomy. As she's carrying the cat, an image of a queen can be seen behind her. I was really interested to figure out who this queen is because, you know, a little rat in the back of my brain told me that it was somehow related to the Queen of Hearts. The painting is of none other than Queen Victoria of the UK. Oh, yes, how decadent. How does this tie into the Queen of Hearts, you might ask? It fucking doesn't.
I say that rather loosely, as there is a political theory that the Queen of Hearts from the original Alice in Wonderland is basically based off of Queen Victoria, because some people didn't like her. Some people thought she was a little stinky, a little bad. So there's that. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm reaching a little bit too much into it there.
But hey, at least we know who that damn woman is. At least we know that maybe perhaps Alice is a little bit British. I'm so sorry. Even more interestingly though, as Alice approaches the mirror, we can see actual pictures of the real Alice Liddell on either side of it. And I'm sorry to keep pausing here, but I really just want to play this part out for a second. Okay, why is it funny? Can someone tell me why is it funny? Can someone please tell me why is this so fucking funny? Alice reaches a hand out to the mirror, and for a split second, we can see an unknown creature's face flash on the screen. I have a feeling we'll see our old friend again a little bit later. Alice's face turned purple and then snapped back to reality. She's in the same room from before, only now it's much worse. She wakes up seated in a chair, which is rather ominously positioned next to a picture of the White Rabbit. The pictures of Alice Lytle that were on either side of the mirror are now replaced with 2 images of the same dodo bird, which is a reference to the dodo bird in the original Alice in Wonderland book, because I think at least one appears as a character at some point. I'm 22. I don't fucking remember, okay? Alice picks up a bottle of lean and goes sippy sip. Alice ends up in a dark void with a checkered floor, and for a brief moment, we can actually see what's happening to Alice in real life. It's revealed to us that she's locked up in a psych ward, staring at the ceiling. The image distorts, and now her face is missing, and there's blood spattered across the bed and the floor. Never mind that, though. Our girl has much more important things to worry about, like talking to sentient chessboard pieces. Alice's little friend, you know what, we're just gonna call him Greg, okay? Greg's moaning apparently directly translates to, that this is slowly eating you. Okay, buddy, I get it. I know she's a little tipsy off the lean, but you know what? Don't yuck her yum. All right, she's having a good time. Now, this is one of the few times that Alice shows any amount of emotion on her face. Here she seems mildly concerned, a little bit inconvenienced, but hey, I guess that's something, right? Across from Alice is a hole in the wall, which she casually girl bosses her way through. She stumbles upon a whimsical house in an equally whimsical clearing, and she invites herself inside. Waiting for her is a couple of twins with picture frames obscuring their faces, and an illustration of a human brain and mouth on the wall. I'm assuming that these 2 twins are based off of the twins from Alice in Wonderland, named Tweedledee and Tweedledum. No, not those 2. We don't talk about those 2. A puppet show commences, which clearly depicts the 2 twins seated before Alice. They dance until they are both quite literally torn apart, and their portrait faces turn into, paste. Because apparently while I was writing this script, that was the only word that came to mind for me. After this, a brain on what looks to be a surgical table is slowly pulled apart with a caption that reads, "Mutilation is not a cure, it is hell." I have a lot to say about this part, but I'll be saving it for the end of this video. Alice's face in real life can be seen again, but only for a moment before we return once more to Wonderland. Alice is greeted by a personified testicle clothed in green. I actually wouldn't have known this if it wasn't for a comment on my last video. I'm so sorry if I'm not able to find it. If I am, I will have it up on the screen here. Otherwise, you know who you are. But anyways, this same face actually appeared on the caterpillar in the original Alice in Dreams video, and at the time I was like, what's that? Apparently this is literally the face of Lewis Carroll, the creator of the entire Alice in Wonderland book, and I'm a fucking out of touch idiot. I'm sorry that I failed the Alice in Wonderland lore homeschool class. I'm sorry, I know I shouldn't have been so foolish, but it wasn't my fault, okay? It wasn't my fucking fault. Now let me tell you boys, when this picture came up, I knew I had my work cut out for me. Anyways, this is the English translation for those who were wondering. There are few warriors left standing in a battle. You cling to something intangible. Will you be able to create the wall? Only then will you be invincible. Destroy the demon and you will find freedom. Be careful with what you face. And with his dying breath, Humpty Dumpty died. So sad. It's at this point that the gate under the bridge opens and Alice walks through towards this ominous castle in the distance. Okay, but can I just say that throughout this entire video, Alice has literally had the wardrobe of a fucking magic girl anime character. I mean, holy shit, I'm jealous. Madonna's been real quiet since this look dropped, guys. I'm just saying. A mirror appears in front of Alice with an actual illustration from the Alice in Wonderland book within it, and I believe this depiction shows Alice and the Cheshire Cat or something, I think. The image changes to a figure with a crown for a head, and this, of course, makes Alice go, wee! Now here, the queen is poised, okay? She's ready to attack. She could snap at any minute. I don't know how to articulate this part here, but I will try my best. Her dear God, her head turns into a fucking sheep, and she starts to moan and groan like a wild beast in labor, okay? And this makes Alice so sad. It hurt her feeling, and she starts to cry. Why that damn sheep yell at her like that? I think this character might actually represent the Red Queen from Alice in Wonderland, I think, which is another evil queen character that's depicted as being a chess piece. The sheep stops crying and Alice's hands turn into hooves. She got that horse in her for real. Without warning, Alice meets the beast that she was destined to murder. This fucking thing. Now, a lot of the characters in this video are based on the actual Alice in Wonderland book. You know, my ass had to do a whole bunch of Googling for 99% of this video, so please take this with a grain of salt, but I am almost 100% certain that this character represents the Jabberwocky from the original Alice in Wonderland, which is basically an evil dragon that is under the control of the Red Queen. Don't ask me to elaborate on that, because I don't fucking know. Suddenly, we can actually see how these hallucinations are affecting Alice in real life. She somehow escapes her restraints and begins to wander around the asylum. She walks up to a very out-of-place mirror that kind of looks like it's not really there. Sorry, I'm not trying to be rude. It just... I don't think that's real, Alice. I don't know. In that mirror, she sees her reflection, but I guess in one version she's yassified, and in the other one she just got done bed rotting. Anyways, the mirror gives her a sword named Vorpal Memory. Okay, this is just turning into Baldur's Gate at this point. I'm so sorry. When she grabs the sword, she gets even more dolled up. Okay, Queen, I see you. And then Alice descends into the void once more, prepared to make this bitch see God. Alice went down into the darkest place of the mind, the basement of the subconscious. While wandering deeper into the void, Alice finds another version of herself, fast asleep, and then the beast emerges from the shadows and starts to groan in her ear, which causes Alice to disassociate, forgetting who she is. The beast suddenly disappears and Alice returns to normal. She looks to her left and starts to beat the fuck out of that motherfucker. I mean, she WWE's this bitch. I'm not even exaggerating that.
My silly little camera cut out at this part, but after that, it shows that Alice in real life is actually, she escaped the psych ward and she has fallen down a hole in the woods. So that's fun.
And here, if you look closely at the reflection in her sword, you can see an illustration of the Jabberwocky inside of it. Me when I'm... Hold on, I'm sorry, I gotta try and think of a bit for this part. Me when I'm shitting, me when I'm crying, me when I'm looking like that. When Alice emerges from the mirror, she turns into the Red Queen, I'm assuming, and carries the Jabberwocky's severed head in her right hand. Alright, so again, I'm going to reiterate this, and I'm just going to start right off the bat and tell it to you guys plain. Again, as I stated previously, a lot of this is going to require some understanding of Alice in Wonderland lore, which I most certainly do not have. So what I had to do, again, every time something weird happened or a new character was introduced, I literally had to go and Google it just to make sure it didn't tie into the original book somehow. So if it seems that at times I don't know what the fuck is going on, it's because I don't. I'm sorry. I'll admit it, I'm a shitty YouTuber and I suck at my job. Fucking stab me. Based purely on the introductory sequence as well as the information from the first video in the series, we know that Alice is, of course, a lobotomy patient, right? And that somehow she ended up in an asylum. Based purely on the history of the lobotomy and how in many cases it actually made the patient's symptoms much worse, a lot of these patients would end up in psych wards or asylums as a direct result of that. One example that I can think of off the top of my head is that of Rosemary Kennedy, who was actually sent away to a psychiatric facility after having her lobotomy, and it, of course, making things much, much worse for her than they already were. And her family just abandoned her. They wanted nothing to do with her after that, and they acted like she didn't exist. Her story is actually really tragic and pisses me off to no end and continues to live rent-free in my head to this very day. With that said, however, I think it's entirely possible that this is actually how Alice ended up where she did. I think it's possible that maybe her symptoms were too much for her family to manage and they just sent her off somewhere to the depths of a psych ward so that they could eventually forget about her, which is very cruel, but that did happen to a lot of people back in the day, and I think that's probably what's going on here. Now, one scene in particular that I really want to circle back to is the scene with the twins. If you actually look at their faces, there are illustrations of the original Alice from Alice in Wonderland within the picture frames. So this tells me that yes, while this could have been a reference to Tweedledee and Tweedledum, I think on a deeper level, they both represent aspects of Alice herself. This is especially poignant when the marionette of the twins gets torn apart while they're dancing, and we can see that the faces in the picture frames have become bloody and mutilated. After this, we can see a brain getting pulled apart and the words, "Mutilation is not a cure, it is hell." To me, I think this is indicative of the fact that, yes, while Alice may have had her own mental health issues at the time, she certainly wasn't broken. This mutilation of her brain through a lobotomy was done solely so that she could be assimilated into society and make other people more comfortable without actually taking her own desires and needs into consideration. Similarly, I think this could also be showing how her brain, in a sense, is completely being torn apart from within, and she's also slowly losing a sense of her identity as a result. This is further emphasized by the fact that while she was in the abyss with the Jabberwocky, she temporarily experienced a moment of dissociation where she forgets who she is. And I actually want to focus on that for a minute too. I think in Alice's attempts to regain her sense of autonomy, she tries to fight a part of herself that she deems as broken or faulty. She tries to fight the damage that's being done to her. That to me is being represented by the Jabberwocky, which seems to be the source of her identity problems. The scene where she sees what I believe to be the Red Queen in the mirror is also very interesting to me. Perhaps this was a reflection of what she would soon become. She seems to become very upset when the Queen turns into a sheep and starts wailing, and when the wailing stops, she begins hallucinating and her hands turn into hooves. This also runs parallel to the fact that after killing the Jabberwocky, she adorns herself in a red dress and crown. This to me could symbolize the fact that rather than actually conquer her illness, I think she's slowly succumbing to it. In real life, however, the things that are actually happening around Alice paint a completely different picture. Shortly after defeating the Jabberwocky, we can see that the real Alice has actually escaped the asylum and fallen down a hole in the woods. Whether or not there will be a third episode, or if this will tie into it, is yet to be determined. Another thing worth mentioning is the conversation Alice has with the sentient chessboard piece. The chess piece mutters the phrase that this is slowly eating you, and I think that this further drives home the point that Alice's condition is just slowly getting worse and there's nothing she can do about it. In other words, I don't think that, if there are future episodes, that things will get much better for her. All in all, I just really love how this series seems to really be leaning heavily into the psychological horror aspect of it, and it really shows how a broken mind can be much more terrifying than anything that might be happening in real life. I also really appreciate the references to the real Alice in Wonderland characters that are sprinkled around in the video like little Easter eggs, like little mouse droppings. You might accidentally step in one and go, oh, what's that? That's not good. I'm definitely going to continue keeping track of this series if there are any future episodes, and as always, please continue to support the creator. I've left a link down below in the description, and well, that's all for now. Goodbye, my little Jabberwockies.